Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. First, let me say thank you to all the subscribers that stayed with me, and for the new ones, thank you and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut this toiletry bag, but just to show you how you could do different corners. Alright, so I have this piece of fabric here, and I'm going to find the center of the fabric. You find the center and you notch that. When you finish notch that, you're going to draw a straight line up the middle. Alright, so this is going to be our guide. It depends on what size you're making. And remember, this is only one piece of fabric. If you're cutting out your fabric, you put 2 layers of fabric, 2 layers of lining, and 2 layers of stabilizer or press on or whatever you use to keep your bag sturdy. From this center, you measure across 4.5 and you mark. You do the same at the top. Alright, so you have 4.5 here, 4.5 here, 4.5 at the top, and 4.5 here. You're going to join these 2 dots. I'm not a pattern maker, but just for your purpose, I'm just going to show you. If I was doing this myself, I will just go ahead and cut it, because most of my work is done freehand. Alright, so what you should have is something like this. I'm just going to give this 1 centimeter seam allowance. Right, and you're going to measure from this line up. You're going to measure 3 inches. And you mark. You do the same this end and that end. And you draw a line. Okay, so you have 2 boxes here. The next, we're going to start from the bottom here again, and you're going to draw up 6 inches. Okay, so right here, this is where our bag is going to be. Alright, the next step, this is the seam allowance. These are the seam allowance. This is the bag. This is the body of the bag. We're going to use these as seam allowance. Alright, so this line right here, we're going to measure out, and this is going to give us our seam allowance. So you're going to measure out 1 centimeter, or it depends on what seam allowance that you want, but for this I'm going to use 1 centimeter. One centimeter from here to there. I don't know if I said it, sorry. And you do the same thing over here. Alright, so this bit is the bottom of the bag. That's the seam allowance here. So here I'm gonna put SA, so I know that's seam allowance. Okay, and that's SA, seam allowance. Seam allowance. Alright, so that's it. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do, this straight line here, I'm gonna put it on the line inside, this one going up. And this curve, I'm gonna put it onto the top of the bag. This line going across here is gonna be right here. So our focus is gonna be this end and that end. So this is the way you hold the ruler, the master, pattern master, and you put it down like that. Okay, make sure this line up to this line on the side here, and also that it's line up right here, and that's what you do. Next you're going to take your pencil and you're going to start from either end and you go around this curve. Okay, and you do the same thing on this side. Right, so you could see the bag taking shape. Alright, so that's done. So as I said, we finished that. So next, what this seam is what we're going to focus on. But remember, we have to add seam allowance around here. So when you put down your pattern master, this end should be on the outer line, and this top should be outside of this curve. So this is how it should be, right? And that would be 1 centimeter. That's my seam allowance. So 1 centimeter, and that's what you get. And you're gonna just go around this curve up to that point, up to this line. See, each line that you make, each mark you make on your pattern is for a reason, right? So this is the seam allowance going around the back. So we're going to do that onto the other side. Alright, I hope that you can see what I have here. That's the seam allowance. So all of this is seam allowance around the bag. One more thing that we need to do, as this is the center and the zip is going from this end to that end, we will need extra in order so that the zip can fit and look neat right across here. Alright, so as I said, we're going to work on this end here. What I'm going to show you is how you can give the corner right here at the base. You're going to put your zipper. All you do is just extend this just slightly. I like to extend it enough so you have enough fabric to work with. So from here, you're going to measure out, because this is 1 centimeter already from this point to that point. You're going to measure out another centimeter to make it 2 centimeters, and you're just going to mark it like that. Once you finish with that, all you're gonna do is basically come around here like that and bring it to join that line. But I'm gonna be using this ruler to do that. Okay, so as you can tell, I kind of mark it deeper so you can see. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. You have that slight extension right here. I'm gonna cut it out so you can see it. I'll do the other side and I'll show you. Alright, so I'll just cut it out. Make sure you cut it on the right lines. Alright, and that's that really. As simple as that. Alright, so once you stitch that, you'll have your zipper going here, right around here up to this point. And this is where you stitch, that's where you stitch, that's where you stitch. You stop here and you put your zipper in at the top. Okay, so I'm going to show you next how you can make the corners. Alright, so I'll just meet you right back at the machine. Alright, so I'm at the machine and you finish making your bag. You finish cutting your bag and now you want to join it together. And this is, for example, this is the bag style I showed you just now with the curved top. Right, and remember, say for example you have your seam at the bottom. You're not gonna join your bottom yet. First you're gonna put your zipper in, but I'm just gonna show you at the moment how to get the nice corners. Alright, so just for example, you already do what you gotta do. Now you're ready to close up. You're gonna stitch straight down the two sides. And I'm gonna be using a black thread so you could see the stitch and what I'm doing. Alright, so once you finish stitching that, if you like this style of then you go ahead and you leave it just like this. This is one way, just a plain square type of thing, right? But if you don't want that, keeping in mind that you have your seam, and if you don't have your seam, at least you have a mark in here that would guide you. You open this seam that you just stitched. If you want, you can press it as well. And you make sure this seam is lined up with the seam at the bottom. Right, once you have that line, you can pin. Alright, so once you pin that, I'll show you the next step. Alright, you take your ruler, just measure, I would just measure 1.5 inch. And if you want a larger cut, as I said, then you measure in more. So my measurement would be 1.5. You mark them like this. And on that mark, you just stitch right across. You can always cut this across, just so that when you turn it, you don't have all that bulge. Alright, and that's fine. In some cases, you can just turn this and give it a nice top stitch. But for now, I wouldn't do that. Alright, and this is one corner. That's one style, as easy as that. Alright, and when you cut that, see, I'm going to take the thread out and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. Alright, and this is what it looks like. As long as you measure what you need to measure, have the center line, that's it. Alright, so that's one way. Another way you can do your side, another style, you join your sides like this, and you measure up your measurement, whether it's 1.5 or 2 inches, and you mark that. So that would be 1.5 I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go across here 2 inches. And then next I'm going to join this point to that point. And on this line, I'm going to stitch. Okay, and that's all to that side. This is another style. So you can have your bag, it's another style, you can have your bag, so when you stitch up here, you have that, and you put your zipper in, right? And that's that one. So say when you cut your pattern, this is what your pattern would look like. It's just a V at the end here, and this one, you have something like a square, you cut in a square. That's two styles of the toiletry bag corners. Alright, so remember how we did this? Remember how we did this? I'm going to show you another way that you can do, another way you can cut this in order to get the same result. It's the same way. Once you mark it out, you'll be able to get it. Alright, so this, for example, is your toiletry bag. You're going to measure in 1.5 inches. Measure up 1.5 inches. Right? You're going to measure over 1.5 inches. And measure down another 1.5 inches. Okay. You're going to leave room for seam allowance. But for this, I'm going to leave 1 centimeter. So I'm just going to use my pencil and mark it. Alright, so this bit is going to be my seam allowance. Next, I'm going to cut this out on the second line. Right, so you have this. Okay. What I'm going to do next is stitch up the sides here. Right, you have your side stitch. Then you're going to open your bag, open your seams, and you're going to match this seam with this seam in the bottom. Okay, once you have that done, you're just going to stitch right across here. Alright, then you clip your seam. Alright, and you open that out and you get that. So there are two ways you can do that to create the seam. It depends on what's easier for you. Alright, so I'm going to come back and show you another side corner, another corner. Okay, so this is the piece of fabric I'm going to be using to show you another style. Alright, so it depends on what you're doing. The width for this one is 15, and this is just a sample, so you don't have to make it this big. And this one is 11. Well, sorry, 22. Alright, so what I do is put this in half. I'm going to find the center. Alright, so once I find the center, I'll notch this. And you can make your toiletry bag with different corners that look really, really neat. You just have to be creative. Alright, so now we find the center. I'm going to give this a press as well. Because what I'm doing here, these seams are going to be very important. Okay, so this is a centerpiece. You're going to open up your fabric. I'm going to mark this as well so you can always see. Down the center. All right, so that's my center line right here. Okay, I'm gonna take my tape measure and I'm gonna measure 2.5 inches from this center, 2.5 inches 4 times on this end and 4 times on that end. So next I'm going to join this mark to the mark at the bottom, and I'm going to do that for all of them. That's what we're gonna do here. Alright, so this is the tricky bit now. Say for example, obviously this is for the zipper, up here is for the zipper. Let me straighten this out. Alright, so next what I'm going to do is each of these lines, I'm going to give them a notch. So all you do, you just notch them slightly. Alright, that's done. The next step is I'm gonna measure in, because now I'm thinking of the zipper that we will put in here. So from that end I'm gonna measure in. It depends on the length of zipper you have. You measure in so you have the desired length right here. I'm gonna measure in another 1.5 inches. Okay, and from this end to my marking, I'm just gonna stitch on both sides. Alright, so this is where I stitch, and that's where I stitch. And at this point, you have a zipper, you can just put it in. Alright, so you're gonna find this center. And you're going to make sure and line it up with the center at the bottom. Okay. So I press that seam. You can go ahead and you can press these other seams, but remember you have your markings, so you don't have to do that. If you have a heavier fabric, maybe you can. Alright, so we have that center, we have it all lined up right there. The next step is you're going to come in with this on the next line. You're going to do that. This is what you're going to do, like that. Okay, you're going to take this and bring it over onto that end, and I'm going to show you again on this side. Remember all your notches here, and I think what you can do is actually count your notches. That would make it a bit simpler. Alright, so you can mark them by you can number your notches or number your lines. So I'm gonna number this 1, 2, 3, and the bottom one is gonna be 4, and you go on like that. All right, so, and you could do the same thing on the opposite side. So giving that number would guide you as to which one you're going to pick up. Okay, so you're going to join together number 8, and you're going to stitch in, and you're going to stitch in. All right, just make sure that's it. Then you're going to press number 8. Once you have number 8 seam press, you're going to take number 8 seam and you're going to put it in the middle in number 4, because the number 8 is half of that, obviously, so you're going to put it in number 4. Alright, so once you have that, you should see 7 and 1 on this end. Okay, so that's done. You're going to grab number 7 and you're going to put it over to number 1. Okay, so now you have number 5 seam right here. Then you take number 7, you bring it back over to number 5, and you can press that flat. You do the same thing on this side. You're going to take number 1, you're going to bring it over to number 7, okay, and then you take number 1 again and you put it over to number 3. And you can press that flat. At this point you want to hold your fabric together, so you can go ahead and pin that. Alright, so you have, basically this is what you have, and this should be 5 inches. It depends again how big you want your bag to be. Right, so what we're going to go over to the machine and just give that a stitch here and a stitch there. Alright, so this is my stitch on the ends, but remember, before you do all this stitching right here, make sure your zipper is open. Alright, so now we have the sides open. Now we have the side stitch, imaginary zipper open. We're going to turn this inside out. Right, and when you turn this inside out, basically what we're trying to accomplish here, is to get this in the center. So what you do, you just bring this out just like that, and this is going to form a V like. That's going to form that V shape. Alright, and that is the end, this is the corner of your bag right here. You turn this other side out. It's very simple. It looks complicated, but it's not. All right, so this is like, I'm gonna stuff it with these so you can see what I'm talking about. See the actual design of it. And just imagine this is a thicker fabric and stuff like that. It holds much better. All right, and this is your bag, your toiletry bag. Very quick and easy, and it's done. Once you have your zipper in, that's the end of it, and your lining and everything. All right, so it's very, very simple. I'm gonna go ahead and make the real thing, and I'm gonna show you. Alright guys, so I'm gonna be using this fox leather to make the toiletry bag. This one that I just showed you, because I think this would look really nice in this style. Okay, so I had in mind to use this for a different design, but changed my mind to use this. See, as you can tell, I already have it marked out, but never mind. Okay, so I'm gonna measure across 11 inches. And I'm going to join my marks. Alright, so this is the size of the bag that I'm going to be making. So what I'm going to do is just make my notches. I'm going to make my center notch. Alright, so I know that's my center notch. And the lining, I'm going to be using this lining, this silky lining here. Just put this on top of it and cut it. For the inside, I'm going to be using this medium weight interfacing, this press-on medium weight interfacing, and that will give it a bit of stability. So now I'm going to go ahead and press this onto the fox leather. After you finish pressing on your interfacing, then you put your lining onto the fabric, and you could pin that together, but be very careful how you pin this, because once you pin it, it will show the holes. So what I'm gonna do here is just pin this right at the top where I know the zipper is gonna go, and it's gonna turn in. Also, I'm gonna use small pins. So if you notice, the pins are just at the very edge, just to hold them in. I mean, just to hold the lining, because I'm going to be stitching this all the way around. Alright, so these are the pins just at the top here and at the sides there at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to go to the machine. I'm just going to stitch this around just to hold the lining. Alright, so I finished stitching around here. I'm just going to trim the edges. Okay, so after you finish putting on your interfacing or your stabilizer or whatever you're using to stabilize your bag to give it a shape, you put your lining on. After you put your lining on, this is what I did. I mark it 2.5 inches, and then I'm gonna go and number these lines. Alright, I'm gonna number it on one side. So what I'm gonna do is to grab the center, and before we do anything, these edges here, I'm gonna overlock them. So I'm gonna go over to the overlock machine and I'm gonna neaten them up and come back. Alright, so this is what I've done just to make the edges nice and neat. Alright, so you put the sides together like this. And the zipper I'm going to be using, is this zipper with this tussle right here. It's a bit long, but I would make it work. Alright, so what I'm going to do here next is come into the sides. And I'm going to come into the side about 1 inch. You have that inch mark. Alright, so this is what I'm going to be doing. I'll just stitch from this end up to that inch, and I'll do that on the other side, and I'll come back. Okay, so I finished stitch this the top piece here. So as I can't press this leather bit, I'm just gonna crease it with my fingers. Okay, so what I did, I decided to change the zipper. Alright, so this is 1/2 of the zipper in. Alright, so I'm just gonna turn it back on the wrong side and stitch the other half, the other side. Okay, so this is what the zipper looks like. Right, so this is what I've done here on the side. Okay, I'm going to open my zipper and turn it back onto the wrong side. Okay, remember that we number these lines. Alright, I think you can see better right here. Right, so we have everything centered. Okay, and this is number 2 line. We're going to take number 2 line, bring them together and take them over to number 8. If this is a fabric, you can pin, but because it's this type of material, this fake leather, as I said, I don't want to put any holes in it, so I'm going to have to work with it like this. Alright, so you keep that there. And you have number 4 line right here. So the next step is to bring back number 2 over, bring back number 2 over to number 4. Okay, and you hold that right there. I'm just going to do one side for now. Alright, and you hold that right there. please ensure that this inner piece, that's number 3, make sure that this is lined up right in the center here, and also in the center seam, mainly in the center seam, because you want, when you stitch, everything is nice and straight. So just make sure that's done right there. Okay, all right, I just got these little pegs, so I hold that there. You go over to this side. This is number 7 line, and this is number 8. Okay, let's just turn it this way. You take number 8 line and you take it over to number 2. That's the opposite side. Okay, take it over to number 2, just so that you make sure and have your line up here. And then you bring back number 8 right over to number 6. All right, and at this point, as I said, make sure number 5, sorry, not number 5, number 7, make sure number 7 line is lined up in the seam as well. If it's not in the seam, you're gonna have problems. Alright, so once you have that line up and you have something holding that, you go over to the machine and you stitch that. I'm gonna go over to the machine and show you exactly what I do. Alright, so still holding your fabric in place. I'm going to proceed to stitch my corner here, my side here. Change my foot. Alright, so this is what you're looking for. You see, that's why you mark each lines 2.5, the same measurement, in order to get an accurate, you know, when you fold it, everything is accurate and the same size. Alright, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Make sure my seams are together right here. Alright, so now this is nice and flat. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this side. Alright, so both sides are stitched. I'm going to overlock that side and this side. Alright, so I have my bag stitched overlock here and overlock here. Now for the fun bit. See, my zip is open so I can get into the bag very easy. So I'm gonna just turn this out and you'll see it exactly how I've done this sample. Stuff this so you can see the shape of it, so the shape can show up a lot better. Alright, so this is the bag. This is the bag. Once you have things in it, you'll be able to see the style of it much better. Right, this is the side. Gives it that kind of like an envelope kind of design right here. And this is the side. It's a decent size bag. It's really soft, it's not hard. Okay. You can use this to put your makeup, your toiletries. Okay, on the inside, as you can tell, it has this lining here, as I showed you before. Alright, so if you like the video, like, share and subscribe. I'll be selling these on my website. I have a website coming soon and I'll be able to put the link in and you guys can go over and purchase any one of my items.